Hey, welcome to Beyond Organic Wine. I'm Adam Huss, and this is part 3 of this Summer in Quebec series. Thanks so much for listening. Here's a fun fact. Did you know that as of the mid-1950s, somewhere between 32 to 40% of French vineyards were planted to hybrid grapes? It's true. The world of wine that we take for granted now is actually not very old. And in fact, it's an aberration historically. I'm going to talk about why this was and is and how we can move forward in a special July 4th episode at the end of this week. This episode features a Quebec wine grower working mostly with Vitis vinifera, especially Chardonnay. It's undeniably harder to grow vinifera in Quebec, and this theme will be explored further in the final 2 episodes of this Quebec series. There is a spectrum of decision-making at this moment in history between market demands, personal preference and wine style on one end, and ecologically aligned farming on the other end. Each of the Quebec wine growers featured in this series falls somewhere on that spectrum, and I have a lot of respect for their decision-making, and I think there are valuable insights to be gained about navigating the real world of our current wine culture from listening to each of them and understanding them. I'm an extremist on the ecological counterculture end of the spectrum, of course, and I embrace the market and wine style consequences of those extremities. But I'm not currently making a living from wine growing, so my commitments don't lead me to judge other wine growers' decisions if they are thoughtful about where they land on that spectrum. I see my role at the moment as pushing the extremes, helping the spectrum swing toward the ecological side, and calling out the dominant culture that doesn't consider ecology in their decision-making at all. But the times are a-changing. The dominant wine culture is losing its dominance. And I'll have a lot more to say about that on that special July 4th episode, so check it out. My guest for this episode is Michael Marler, who with his partner Véronique Hupin owns and farms and makes wine as Vignoble les Pervenches. Sorry for butchering the French. And he's been doing this for 25 years. Mike has twice been selected as the best wine grower or vigneron in Quebec, and he's the only person to have received this honor twice, I've been told. 75% of his vines are vinifera with 25% Céval Blanc, which is a hybrid. And he specializes in Chardonnay partly because he bought a farm that had old Chardonnay vines already growing on it. Those vines are now about 30 years old, which is pretty remarkable in a climate as extreme as Quebec's. And he talks about how he farms to make this possible. He farms organically and biodynamically and has been an inspiration and mentor for quite a few wine growers in Quebec. We talk about the benefits of the Scott Henry trellis, which if you haven't heard it, has some really interesting things, and how Mike has figured out how to live with and control Japanese beetles. And if you have any issues with Japanese beetles, his advice is smart and practical and comes from a holistic ecological perspective. So I think it's really valuable for anybody dealing with Japanese beetles. Mike's expertise as a wine grower results in some incredible wine. Mike allowed us to taste 3 of his Chardonnays from barrel, and no exaggeration, they were the favorite 3 Chardonnays of my life. Seriously, if you are a Chardonnay lover, seek Mike's out. They are globally exceptional, holy grail stuff. Also, he allows uninoculated fermentations, doesn't filter, and doesn't add sulfites or anything else, so these were 0-0 wines. It was pretty incredible. This conversation ends as we head into the cellar. There is another recording in the cellar of tasting those Chardonnays and a few other wines and how Mike makes them. And I'm going to release that on the Beyond Organic Wine Patreon for Patreon subscribers only. And if you would like to subscribe, that link is always in the show notes. Within the first minute of meeting Mike, as you'll hear, I tell him he looks like a farmer. Just to be clear, I meant that as a big compliment. I think farmers make better wine. But also, Mike tells about how and why he started farming organically, and I've found once again that someone who spends their life in the landscape that they make wine from has a much greater chance of wanting to farm more ecologically. A big thanks to my host on this Quebec adventure, Maxime, who was also part of this conversation, and a big thanks to Mike for his time in this conversation. Enjoy. I've heard only amazing things about you.
Oh no!
Yeah, you've got to live up to
no.
a big reputation at this point.
Yeah, I've been listening to your podcast, and then I look at my vineyard and say, I'm never going to live up to it. I'm never going to live up to anything.
You look like a farmer.
Hopefully,
Yeah.
I am. I went
Nice.
to ag school. I worked on farms when I was a kid. Worked at farms during university.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
How'd you get into grapes?
Studying.
Yeah.
In Toulouse.
Okay. In Toulouse?
Yeah.
In France?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And what was the attraction?
What's the attraction?
Yeah.
Wine.
Yeah?
Start with wine.
Fell in love with wine.
Yeah, fell with wine. Then, going to ag school and trying to decide what I want to do in life. I mean, in 1995 when I was at ag school, that's basically what you did in Quebec.
Yeah.
When you were farming, right?
Yeah.
So I went on a year exchange program in France just because I love traveling.
Yeah.
And
nice. Yeah.
and then I went to Brussels to pick up my girlfriend, and we drove home. Back to Toulouse, and a friend of mine who I was studying with is a grape grower in Burgundy, so I stopped by at his parents' place in Verzé. And so multiple things happened there. Well, obviously we know we love wine, and then so I stopped by, and then so I was I don't know how old I was, my 20s, early 20s. Yeah, just drop by and you stay the night, and have a great dinner. Wake up next morning, Monsieur Maillet goes, "You want to go see the vines?" And of course I want to go see the vines. I mean, I love everything about agriculture, so let's go see what you're doing. And we go out there and we start pruning. He starts pruning vines. So this is Pinot Noir, and this is how you prune a vine. And then at that moment, he cut like some of the wood that he was pruning and bundled it and said, "Why don't you go plant this in Quebec when you go home?" And I said, "Well, Monsieur Maillet, it's February. I got to finish school, and then I'm planning to travel in Europe, so there's no way these are going to make it back." So I put it back in his hand and said, "Sorry, that's not going to happen." But the idea stuck right there. And then also, it's he had 3 hectares of grapes. Obviously he was a school teacher, but now his son Nicolas is running the place. And I realized that, hey, not only is the product great, but you don't need to invest in a huge amount of land to be able to do what you want. So I said, okay, from a business side, that's cool. And then just from just trying to figure out, how I'm going to live. I kind of knew my character then, but I'm still learning about my character. But the fact was that I needed something where, like here, basically the sort of before then, everything, the markets were all like, no one, it's all grants or stuff for quotas or insurance, and so basically I felt that you're always working to reduce cost because you knew what you were going to get. You're either get your quota price or the stabilized beef price or the stabilized whatever price, and so the only way you could have fun and make money in there was to reduce your costs, because by working better, obviously you can yields, yes, but you can't go beyond the price of the market if you're doing something that's more qualitative. But in wine growing, I saw right away that, hey, if you go out there and you prune properly, that's what I realized. He was reminding Maillet. He was telling me about the pruning and how important it was for spacing and light and everything. And I said, hey, so like every little gesture you do in the vineyard can, potentially, there's the price elasticity on wine. It's like insane, right? Yeah. So I was like, okay, cool. Love the product. Don't have to invest too much. And then you have a little more play that if you want to work harder, well, maybe you can get paid a little more for what you do.
Yeah.
And then there was just the idea that you're a farmer, but it's very manual too.
Yeah.
So it's not all big tractor. It's not all big investment too on that end. The chores are changing all the time. You're a farmer. You're a winemaker. You're a salesman. And I said that could be really stimulating.
Yeah.
And
you've
burning prunings, in Burgundy in the winter.
Oh yeah.
I mean, hey,
we were just at Oak Hill, and they have the Burgundian, like the barrel burner.
Yeah, I got one of those.
Yeah.
I now I just
make a pile or something.
No, what do we call it? On les bois. What's the word?
Chip and bois.
Yeah, chip and bois behind us. Yeah. To keep it there. Instead of, I was finding I was bringing in the day I used to burn, and then I started taking them out, and then I would chip them, and then I'd compost them, and then it takes 3 years, and then I'd bring it back, and I was like, that's a lot of energy to get that there. So I said, hey, I think that and when I was thinking about it, everybody's like, no, you can't do that. It's going to demand so much of your soil microbiology. I said, yeah, but once the microbiology gets there and is used to it, it's just going to use it. So it might be a little bit of a change. It's the first time, way back when no one had grass between the rows. Put grass in. Oh, your body's not going to be able to take it. I was like, Well, they will, and,
Yeah.
and 3 years later, everybody will figure it out.
Right.
And so that's what my attitude was. So I've been in it now for 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. Well, all the first stuff you said just made a bunch of people, hopefully, I mean, unfortunately, really excited about being a wine grower. It sounds so nice the way you put it.
Well, it's awesome. I love it. I love every minute of it.
Tell us about the heartache.
I cry when it freezes, and I hate mildew, but I hate leaf hoppers.
Can we look at this stuff over here?
Yeah, most of it's over there.
Okay, let's go over here then.
That's
similar.
just so I don't have to mow the lawn.
What's that one over there? Oh, yeah, that's nice. Smart.
That's Zweigelt and Chardonnay.
Turn that one. Oh, it's what?
Zweigelt and Chardonnay.
Zweigelt and Chardonnay.
Yeah.
Okay. I heard you have some old Chardonnay here.
Yeah, the ones along the wood there. But they're
Are you all vinifera?
35?
Do you do hybrids as well?
75% vinifera.
Really?
Yeah.
And
But this was all hybrids when I first planted the vineyard.
Oh yeah.
And I ripped
Okay.
them all out and planted them with vinifera.
Because you didn't like the hybrids, or what?
I guess I think this,
How do you feel now about that?
I think there's
decision?
still too much acidity in our climate.
Okay.
And so from a winemaker's point of view, I like making vinifera way better than making.
Oh.
So, I've made Céval, I've made Vidal, I've made Foch, I've made Sainte Croix, I've made Marquette, I've made Frontenac, I've made Louis Swenson, I've made a whole bunch. And I just said, hey, my Chardonnays were always a lot more fun, I felt. So I just said, hey, I figured out how to prune them and how to get them to where I want to be. And that's what I want to do.
How do you farm them here?
How?
Yeah, are you farming organically, biodynamically?
Both, yeah.
And do you do certification?
I have been certified until our certification went to Demeter USA.
Oh, and then you...
And I just forget it. I can't do this anymore. No, but the reality is 2 things happened actually. One is that there was a change when we went to Demeter USA from how many hectares you grow to gross revenue. That changed the picture.
Right.
And I also felt that it was like having a second organic certification as opposed to having a real biodynamic certification. It was sort of like, here, fill out these papers, fill out all the products you use, fill me out how much you're doing it, why are you using them. But no one ever came here and asked me, okay, tell me about your dynamisation.
Right.
No one asked me questions about that.
Right.
Let me see the quality of your 500.
Right.
No one ever asked me about that. Back when we used to do it with Demeter Quebec, we'd go see all that and look at everything, because that's the key of the biodynamics, right? It's about doing the preps. Everything else is, in my opinion, has nothing to do with biodynamics. It's organic farming. So, and I can understand that maybe Demeter would like to be a little more focused on certain points.
Yeah.
Of how much you're using of what and why and where, and philosophically where you're buying from and stuff. But I just said, look, if I'm doing a double certification of the same thing without any sort of huge questioning about the quality of what we're doing, and Vero and I said, okay, for now we're off. This was 2 years ago, so 2023 certified since I think 2008.
Okay.
And then I just said, look, no. And then we had a few meetings. I don't know if Louise talked to you about it, but the sort of Demeter Canada is trying to figure out how to get a certification back that makes sense in Canada. Because we started off as Demeter Quebec, then it became Demeter Canada, but Canada's a big country with very few people, so it was very expensive for that to happen. And then it moved to Demeter USA, and it just got further and further away from what I thought it was all about. And I do that for fun.
Yeah.
Biodynamics. I don't do it to do this.
Right, yeah.
I'd like to find a way to get the certification back, because as the years go by, I feel I do a better job at it, and I kind of feel it'd be kind of nice, But hey, right now it's not that, so it's been not that for 2 years, but it has been from 2008 to 23.
Okay. So, how do you keep the Chardonnay alive?
I cover them with.
You cover them?
Yeah, hay or geotextile. We used to bury them.
Okay.
So this doesn't have cover crop right now because it was buried. So that's Céval.
Okay.
So to keep those alive in winter, we hill up.
Okay.
But the amount of earth we need to hill up,
it's a lot.
It's a lot. So you got to go to the center. So you can't keep a cover crop.
So we pull it from the center and push it up over.
And then once the flowering's done, then we go in and put the cover crop down.
So is it almost like a gobelet style?
Yeah, but it's a sort of a
VSP gobelet kind
Yeah,
of?
it's a
Linear gobelet.
It's a linear gobelet. That's
Yeah,
what
yeah,
it is. Yeah.
yeah.
And so yeah,
Ah, interesting. Okay, cool. That's like unique to hear then.
this is sort of the original way
This
of
is
Quebec.
Of Quebec.
Yeah, growing. And
Fascinating.
so I obviously learned that 25 years ago, and
Wow.
have changed it here. Have gone to cover with geotextiles, and then went, hey, I mean,
Is that Mark? Sorry, in the dark.
that's composted hay, manure, and and everything left over from winemaking residues. Yeah,
Sorry, you were saying something. I interrupted.
that's okay. That's cool. I don't mind.
Do you remember what you were saying?
No, that's
Okay,
at my age.
sure.
I can't remember. No. At the end of the day, at 52 in June, no, can't remember what I was saying. Actually, So we changed prunings here and put geotextiles on, and tried a whole bunch of things, and that was back in 08, 09.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't get the results we really wanted. We felt that right away the crop went down. We had a lot of couleur. So then we were thinking like, okay, are we pruning? When the flowering doesn't happen, and
We call it millerandage, maybe?
that's two.
Different thing.
It's all the same thing, but a different thing.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Mirandage is when you would have
Chicks and hens, the
you'd have
little
the little green ones that stay behind and never ripen.
shatter. We call it shatter.
Okay.
Couleur. We call it shatter. Yeah.
Shidube.
Shidube.
So we went back to doing this traditional way, but then we planted some new plantings, and almost from the onset, we started using geotextiles, and the pruning was in consequence to it. So there was no huge change, and they seem to be taking it well. And it's also what happens is the risks involved. When we're doing the geotextiles and the covering, obviously the rodents can get under. But in this they can't. So it's kind of like on a bad rodent year, you don't have it here.
So what rodents do you deal with?
I think they're. I don't know. I'm not there.
Voles?
I'm not with
Are they
them.
girdling?
I try to go to Mexico in winter.
What about? Do you?
So I think they're.
Are they
like,
girdling? Or what are the, what's the
all
damage?
sorts, 3 or 4 different types. So I think there's multiple guys under there. Some guys just eat, or girls.
It's just a party
eat
for
the
the
buds.
rodents. Yeah.
Choop, choop. The other ones they girdle. The other one, then people just eat the bark. So
Whoa.
I think it goes. It must be from like moles and bulls or whatever, and then bigger rat-sized guys, and then maybe even
Groundhogs.
I think maybe the squirrels do it.
Oh yeah.
Because I find acorns under.
Yeah.
And then I'm pretty sure that on a year when the cottontails are
They can get
in
under
a boom,
too? Yeah.
I think they get in there too.
Man. Yeah, they burrow.
But
Yeah,
hey, I
makes
try and
sense.
keep enough wood that we always have resilience, or enough wood to that even if it's tough stuff gets get eaten, we can prune. All right, let's go see them.
Yeah. What'd you plant here at the ends?
My wife, they're big bulbs that you got to cut apart.
Big bulbs. You get it
They
like
come out like
a
it makes a
sun
nice
choke?
flower.
A sun choke?
Kind of looks
No.
like a flower. Looks like Phacelia, but it's like
It's not. Is it edible?
no.
Oh.
It's just a beautiful.
Beautiful.
It's just a beautiful flower, and I'm so embarrassed.
Okay. Oh, it's all right.
Alright, so, Dahlias.
Dahlias.
There
oh,
we
okay.
go.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, yeah.
Right. Like someone's brain is on.
So these are the old vines.
Yeah, these guys. Yeah.
Yeah. So how are you keeping the mildew pressures in check?
Tons of copper.
That's what I want to hear. Is it really?
No, it's not tons of copper. It's actually it's going in like very often with a little bit of copper.
Okay.
And like kicking it off the ground. We have. I mean, I have had years when I have cover crops in here in the spring to stop splashing up, and then we had management issues with cover cropping underneath in the long term. So it just comes back to trying to understand nutrition.
Okay.
As well.
I mean, they look really healthy right now, I gotta say.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I'm trying really hard that they're not, that they are healthy, so that it keeps things, under check, or keeps the pressure a little bit lower.
What do you use, like a Clemens? What is the?
This is a Thiessen, Canadian-made Thiessen, made in Ontario. We can go take a look at it because I only bought it this year, and I've been using Clemens and Cress. I think I have every little mechanical option that's ever existed.
Okay. Right.
And you buy it and you try it. Yeah, it works okay. It doesn't really fit on that tractor. Oh, it takes too much hydraulics. Oh, that hurts the vines. Is this the one that doesn't really work in my situation? Put it aside. Buy the new one.
All right.
Try it out, and then this
I have to ask you more. Like,
Thiessen came along and anyway.
Yeah, no, that's
It's
amazing.
a Cress
So
Clemens style finger to double finger
but
roller.
okay, cool.
It we're doing it on. I have a system. The old Clemens system, I was doing both sides at once.
Yeah.
Just
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
But then when we went to the Thiessen, we're only working one on the side,
Uh-huh.
and it's underneath the track, the ventral. I don't know how to say it, in between the tires, so you're
Oh.
really precise. And it has a. You actually put pressure on it, and the big spinning head actually will always follow the soil, as opposed to when it's on the back, it's the wheels of the chassis that are following. So this is, you put weight on it, and then there's like a parallelogram spring.
Okay.
So it's always just doing this, and then it has a spring this way.
Yeah. So to avoid the
So it doesn't mound like that the other system that just keeps pushing and pushing, and then eventually you have to try and figure out a way to get it down.
Right.
This is sort of
keeps it.
That's what it looks like. That's what it looks like now, and that's what it looks like after you pass through.
Nice.
So that's brand new this year.
Beautiful.
No, we don't do tons of copper. Just to bring back, that was ridiculous. But I mean, on a really bad year, like it's 4 kilos of copper, and then on a really good year, you're at 1/8, 2 kilos of copper per hectare. I don't know what that is in pounds per acre, but it's about the same thing.
Yeah. So leave the middle, do a little undervine. So why are you doing the undervine cultivation? What does that help with? What have you found?
Well, it's a management issue because we do cover crop underneath.
Okay.
And we still plan to. We're just trying to find the right machine to go, because when to bring this all down and everything, we have to like poke it in the ground, and then we need a little space where we can bring a little furrow of earth on.
Okay.
And then when we have when we're in like full cover crop blitz mode for like 3-4 years in a row, and then we go, okay, we need a break from this.
Yeah.
And so it's just management issue of having enough. Like, it's hard to explain, but I mean, I'm sure there are different options. I'm just not there mentally yet. But let's say this is hardened off, and I want to keep this for next year.
How high up do you want this? You want it
all
up
the
here?
way through. Yeah.
Okay. Where do you want the grow zone to be?
Right here.
Right here. Okay.
So this is Scott Henry. So
okay.
This
This is what they were.
It's a modified Scott Henry to be buried.
So so this one goes down, this one goes up.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. All right, we just were talking about
go
that.
down.
So you got 2 cordons essentially, but you renew the cordons pretty regularly. It looks like.
Yeah, we try and keep them under 2 years so that we're not cutting too much big wood.
So are you going to do any shoot thinning, or is this stuff all stuff you want to keep?
We need that. We need that. Yeah.
And that one looks like there's a lot. Is that okay? Do you thin some of that?
I tell 6.
6. Wow.
Because 2 will fall, 1 will get driven over, and then we'll have 3 left. So.
Hey, that's just good. That's the experience right there. That's amazing.
Yeah. So.
Practical realities.
Yeah, basically the plan is that
why plant them so close together? Why do meter by meter? It's meter by meter.
I didn't plant them.
Oh, okay. Okay, you're just dealing with somebody else's bad decisions.
Yeah, this was planted before my time.
Would you put them this close, or would you want them to have more?
I have the same thing with the
double
spacing.
Okay. Oh, you have double spacing.
Well, I'm taking this out.
So it's 2 meters. 2 meter spacing.
Yeah, it would be about 1.5, 1.6.
1.5?
Right now.
Oh wow.
90 centimeters.
Wow.
This was the guy who built this was French. And I guess
he was thinking about Bordeaux.
Right? Yeah. I actually planted a whole hectare in. When I say it's always including Veronique, who I've been doing this with all my life. She's just not here today.
Okay.
So we planted.
Tell her we missed her.
Yeah, in 06 we planted a hectare of Chardonnay and Zweigelt at 8,000 vines per hectare.
Oh.
To see if the old sort of European style would work here. But I think in the long term, having more space for each vine is way better.
Okay.
For what we do for our climate.
Yeah, pressure. The fungal pressure seemed like they would just be less. You have more circulation.
Yeah, I've also just find that I think it's a lot to do with how in competition they feel with sort of hot, humid. So just that sort of hormonal thing when green against green, and they're all shooting for the sky, and then they don't make as much fruit.
Right, because they're still climbing.
They're going, I'm going.
Yeah, I got to get up. I got to get up.
Never gonna go. And then the fruit's always smaller, unless and then later on in the season with all that big growth, big leaf. Well, you get a lot of botrytis and stuff. So by bringing it up and spacing out a bit, that's why the Scott Henry's kind of cool too, because in a sense, they're kind of competition, but they still have 300. They feel for a while they gotta grow in 360 degrees.
Yeah.
So they don't really go crazy. But if we did like a cordon here on the ground, there's a lot of humid pressure here, and everything grows at the same time. And there's that, like, okay, everybody's got to win this race, and it was really not too good.
Do you notice any difference in the growth or productivity of the upper, the one that the up growth versus the down growth? Because you have two
we'll always prune the upper growth because it hardens way better.
Okay.
So the down one will never harden at the end.
Really?
This one will grow less than that one.
Okay, because it's
just because you're pushing
its
head to the ground,
right?
And so that devigorates a vine
right.
a bit too, which is fine. I mean, it needs a little bit of devigoration. I mean, it's kind of balanced right now. Like we just cut the tips once. We're able to get through with that with this spacing and stuff, so that's cool. So we kind of don't get too many internodes and everything. And
you could change from Scott Henry though. I mean, your spacing you can't change. You like the Scott Henry?
For right now, I can't see anything that I would do that would give me the benefits that I have with the Scott Henry.
What are the benefits?
The benefits are that vigor issue I was telling you about.
It helps devigorate, right?
Helps devigorate.
Which is, especially with the small spacing, you need a little bit of that, right? Okay.
Here, we get that open window.
Yeah.
Where all the fruit sits.
So
nice. If you come here, like before we changed Scott Henry, I remember there was in 2005, we would be like this. And then we do this and we see, like, as soon as you moved up to here, there was air.
Right.
And down here, there was nothing. So we said, well, if the fruit is up there,
it's in there.
It's going to dry faster.
Nice.
The other thing is that, okay, let's say we start with a planting of 2 meter 85. The theory that I know of, I'm sure there's another theory, is that the height of your vine should be 80% of the width of your rows to maximize photosynthesis.
Right.
But if you do that with a 285, your grapes are here, if you're doing it that way. So they're in that no wind zone. It takes forever for the sun to get there.
Yeah.
But by doing this, well, we still have that 2 meter canopy for the photosynthesis, but our grapes aren't down below, they're up here.
Beautiful. Yeah.
And then there's spring frost, obviously, where frost is obviously closer to the ground most of the time. Even though on some frost nights you see that it's a little all over the place, but generally it's warmer here than it is there.
Yeah.
Then there's once it's pruned and attached, it's very easy to work because everything's at this height. It's not there.
Right.
Or there.
Yeah. You're not bending over.
Very comfortable.
Right. This is beautiful.
And the raccoons are
harder to get to.
It's harder for them to get there. So in the end,
you don't have.
Yeah. But I'm totally open for more.
You don't have deer fencing.
No.
How's that work?
Because we're completely bird and insect netted.
Okay, by the time
at veraison.
And what about shoots and stuff like that? They're not coming in? They don't try to eat the young shoots?
No, there's no deer here. There's tons of deer here, but I don't know why there's not deer here.
They hate Chardonnay.
I know
I've
that
heard
there was
about
a huge but this was a long ago. There used to be a lot of deer, and yes, they would eat the shoots. And then there was a lot of poaching. It was a very, very organized
they just
poaching
went
group,
for it, yeah.
And it just decimated. And now, like that
there are
field,
deer, but
they're not here. They're somewhere else.
Huh. How many acres or hectares is the total
area? 4, so 10.
4, nice. Yeah. 4 times 2.5. Yeah.
You want to keep walking?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, you just said something I've never heard before, but it makes so much sense. The I just wanted you to repeat it for anybody listening. That the 80% of the height. So you're
So to maximize photosynthesis, the height of your row should be 80% of the width. The width of your row.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I don't know if it was Richard
Smart
it's also said that or in some wine. Is it in there or some old French book?
I wouldn't be surprised.
But
But what's interesting is that's not just to maximize photosynthesis, but to maximize productivity, because like you could go wider, but then you'd lose productivity, right?
Yeah, if you go wider, then actually, if you use the 80% rule, then you wouldn't be able to trellis your. Well, I wouldn't be.
Oh, right.
Basketball players.
Well, I mean,
right. So
there's
a limit to that. There's also wind would break it. There'd be just too much breakage. So I was kind of like.
So that you want the closeness to just still the air a little bit. Or is that what you're saying?
No, I think as large you get, and you want to maximize that photosynthetic leaf area on your hectare, where your trellising gets way too high.
But I mean, you couldn't have. I mean, you could just. Wouldn't you be maximizing it by letting it go 7 feet? and you could still have 20 feet spacing on the rows, it would just, you'd lose productivity that
You'd lose
way.
productivity.
Yeah. That's what I meant.
Yeah,
like
yeah, for sure, of course.
Yeah,
it would just, and you could grow other things. It was going, whatever.
Right.
This is purely, how can I say that? It's just purely, this is what I have, this is what I bought, and I try to make
yeah.
best out of it. And then as I grew, we just copied the same thing. But I've dreamt this sort of permaculture, polyculture thing in my head, but I'm just not going to do it. I mean, because this is what I've got. I mean, this is what I'm doing, and so it's kind of.
What is your dream? I would love to know.
Actually, you know what my real dream is?
Yeah.
You ever seen those circular?
Like a crop. The irrigators.
So you have a huge wind tower in the middle because we freeze it all the time,
right. Yeah.
And then you just have this irrigation thing, so you only have a wheel every 10 rows.
Right.
And then you'd have, whatever you do, if you're spraying or whatever,
right.
or you just do one little circle.
And it's, you just load it there.
Yeah,
and,
I mean, it's a dream. I've never.
That's genius.
And then, you'd have circular vineyard and.
How would that, because it would be a circle, I feel you'd get a lot of diversity in the ripening and phenolics.
Yeah, you'd get all sorts.
But the total mass would probably give you what you wanted.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe.
So yeah, there's that one, and then
the ripening would be interesting.
Then there's like having trying to get the vines to grow on the side of a forest.
That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, and then so I was thinking, how wide would each little forest row need to be?
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Okay.
That's exactly what I'm trying to do.
So you have the vines
with
going up, sort of like you see in those old European pictures with the vines just coming up and then just barfing grapes. So at about that height.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of constraints there because here I have to go on a hardy hybrid because I wouldn't, how do I get the Chardonnays down on the ground?
Right, after it grew up into the tree, right.
So I mean,
swinging
and then all
from
sorts
vines.
of different things going on.
But that's exactly what I'm trying to figure out.
This is
nice.
This is
you got to come visit my farm then, because it's a married vine farm.
Okay.
I'm at the very beginning, so you might want to wait 20 years before you come and visit because it'll be a while.
That's too short.
Yeah.
You gotta go.
Yeah, well, you should come visit anyway.
Yeah.
But I'm trying multiple different systems, but at least 3 different ways of putting vines with trees. So some where it's like fully expressed, like you're talking about, where it's that sort of it goes up into the trees and then cascades down the sides, and then others where I'm using willows as like a trellis system where I'm tying willows together and they create like a living trellis. This is something I've seen. And then another where they pollard the trees at around this height and then the vines festoon between pollarded trees.
What's a pollarded tree?
So you like a deciduous tree where it goes up and then it goes up to 15 feet and you cut it off at 6.
Oh, and it goes
and then it puts out a little afro, and every 2 years you cut off the afro, feed it to your pigs or sheep or whatever. It's like a forage thing, but that keeps enough photosynthetic thing to keep the vine alive or the tree alive. Okay. And then you've got a living trellis pole essentially, and the vines just drape between them.
Amazing.
Yeah. So multiple different things with different species of tree to see like maybe the flavor will change with the grapes if you do a different tree. Maybe they like certain trees and don't like other trees. Thinking about the mycorrhizal fungi in the soil that each of the tree associations have.
Talking about that, I have some Chardonnays over there with like strawberries under them.
Oh, how's that work?
And they have different Brix levels if you take the vines beside them. I haven't quite figured out. Sometimes they're lower, sometimes they're higher. So I don't know if they're like giving. But compared to the vines right beside them, they never show the same thing. I noticed it once because it was like one day it was peaking higher, so I was all excited. Yeah. Went back next day and then it was just a little bit lower, but it was early in the morning, so maybe they were, they were giving to the strawberries. I don't know. It was kind of interesting.
That's really cool. Yeah. Well, I want to ask you something about your stuff growing in the row here. Yeah. Tons of plantain.
It's compaction.
Is that what it is? Yeah. That's why I mean.
I never know. It's only. That's the first thing.
I mean, because you also have lots of clover. It looks like an alfalfa that you planted.
Yeah, so the alfalfa would say that, and the alfalfa has been there forever, so I know that I've got stuff going through.
Yeah, it's penetrating. Yeah. But
maybe this is a row that I use. Hold on, let's try.
Yeah, because this other row maybe not so much, but
yeah, and it's right up here at the peak, at the highest point.
Oh, interesting.
That's why I'm looking around because I just noticed it as you said it, but I've never walked through my vineyard and said it's full of plantain. I see it on the edges, but right there it is, right here it is. But it isn't all the way there. Right. And it isn't all the way there.
Yeah, it trails
except
off.
for where I drive.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
That's interesting. this one is just nuts. But it does taper off that way.
So do you, besides biodynamic preps, do you do anything for soil health? And cover crops,
last
obviously.
Last night I put on a soil that I went and got in the forest and then fermented it. So that's
fun. Was it a spray then?
Yeah, sprayed it on the ground, yeah.
Oh, nice. That's so like Jadam, right?
Yeah, it's kind of the Jadam. And then this morning I made a ferment for what the French call it litière forestière fermentée.
What is that? A fermentation of
so instead of going to get the
what?
Litter? Yeah, so in Jadam it's more like going to get the sort of colloidal stuff underneath.
Okay.
And then fermenting that with potatoes just like
for
a day or two. Yeah. So that's what last night's was. And the other one I did is more just leaf litter, and it's a longer fermentation time.
Okay.
So I have a friend of mine who's doing it. He's like, hey, you got to try this. So there's that. And I've always fermented plants for years and put those on the ground and on the vines. Like,
do you think that's helping with keeping vinifera healthy here?
I don't know. So it's kind of the tough thing is you try so much, you do so much, but it's hard to measure what's actually working. Because
you're not doing trials. You're not doing like this row with nothing and this one with
I just get an idea here. It's good, and then put it everywhere. I try and do now with bricks readings, just like if I'm doing something like something I haven't ever done, I'll go. So the other night I went out
like sap bricks or
sap bricks. I went out and sort of put. I did a batch of, like, for example, like concentrated seawater, fish hydrolysate, and seaweed on like a 10-plant thing, and then beside it I just did like boron, and then down the next one I went on, I just put a bit of molasses, and then the next one down I went and I was just doing this just to see. You hear so much, do this, do that, do that way. I'm like, well, does it work? I mean,
would you say?
Oh, I've got little things. I think the highest hit I got, went up about like 1.5 bricks in this one little block, and that was a calculated mineral foliar fertilization that I'd put together after seeing sap
analysis.
Results.
Fascinating.
Yeah, and so that was kind of cool. It was a 1 to 1.5 on average, because every leaf is a little bit different. You're getting all that, so it was like, is it worth it to do that? And so yeah, I'm trying to measure it that way. Otherwise, it's just like.
So do you do sap analysis regularly?
Not regularly enough. Like it's so expensive.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
I did it and said, hopefully it's like that every year. I'll just hope it gets like that every spring, and then I can just make my decision on it. But no, obviously it's just a picture of the time. At 9 o'clock in the morning.
Exactly. Well, I mean, that was the thing.
Before UPS
like,
comes by to pick up.
I mean, that's my thing about this too. Is like I feel like maybe we shouldn't be making decisions based on a SAP analysis, because it is such like that, and the technology is still kind of new. Like it's spectral analysis, right? So we're still doing. It's almost like an algorithmic thing where you're like they're pulling, like. They're pulling a bunch of data that's associated with your space and your vines, but it's not necessarily like. We don't know the accuracy. I mean, there's some accuracy, but we don't know exactly how. And so, like, I'm always like, well, keep it as like a marker, but like maybe we shouldn't react to it. Like, just be like, hey, okay, good to know this, and then we like let's check it next year, and then check it the next year, and then maybe we'll be like, okay, there's a trend. We're like, definitely this is going down, so maybe we should react at this point, kind of thing. I don't know.
I just felt that like with any other type, with petiole analysis or even just basic soil analysis, is like. You can't really do anything.
Right.
I mean, you're looking at it going, okay, fine. It's like I have this much calcium, this much potassium, that's fine. It looks pretty good, but then you come out in the vineyard and say, oh, I've got leaf hoppers. Okay, I got leaf hoppers. So you look at the soil, you look at your.
You guys get leaf
patio.
Hoppers here?
Yeah.
Nice.
And I'm like,
nice.
Yeah, great. And so I look at this out, and then I see actually certain trends that would correlate with why there could possibly be leaf hoppers sucking away, and so it helps me think about.
Did they go away after higher bricks? Have you noticed that, or what did you notice?
I haven't got to high enough bricks yet.
I gotcha. Yeah.
So it's like in my best ones I'm getting, I'm having around 12.
Okay.
So
wow,
it's around.
So, is that because of the short growing season, or what is it?
No.
Right.
Why is that? I don't even know. Like
I don't know either.
If it's good or bad. I mean, that's just what I have here.
Right. Maybe that's great. Yeah. Maybe you want that. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Good point.
And
Yeah.
all I know is that one thing I'm pretty sure of, and I think SAP analysis helped me to realize this, is that because we're growing Mediterranean plants
In Quebec.
in Quebec. So when the vines bud on the 1st of May, for the soil microbiology is nowhere close to being as active as it would be in Europe at the same time.
Interesting.
And so I'm really thinking on how that is affecting maybe the beginning. That's when the leaf hoppers come along, because that's when they do their first. They come in and they will.
You see that? Yeah.
And actually, they'll lay their eggs in there, and they're like, okay, is it a problem that is due to a certain time when things aren't working properly, and it's just cascading because once they're not going to go anywhere else, right? I mean,
right.
Unless there's some real thing that's going to stop them. So yeah, I think about that. Trying to understand how how the genetics of the plant and the microbiology could be, a little out of whack.
Huh.
But
have you looked at leafhoppers close up, like under a loop or something, where you like magnify them to like where you can see?
I put their eggs under there.
Nice.
I've
I think
sprayed
they're
essential
so
oils
beautiful.
on them and see them die. Yeah, but
I think they're such beautiful bugs.
Yeah.
They're like so. I mean, they're like
Yeah.
I mean, they were always annoying me in the vineyard, and then I
Yeah.
like finally looked at one under
Yeah.
a loop, and I was like, "That's gorgeous!
Yeah.
It's like bright orange and white,
well,
and
the
like
Japanese beetle. The first time I saw
Right.
it, I said, "Oh, these are beautiful."
Right.
And then 5 years later, I was like,
kill them all."
"Oh my god, what is this?" Yeah, but
Yeah.
that one seems to have just. They're very, very present, but they're nothing like they were 15 years ago, and there's nothing really you can do about them. So in a certain sense, you kind of wonder if there is some sort of balance that happened on those. The leaf hoppers, I'm waiting for balance, but I haven't found it.
Also, your Japanese beetles populations have balanced a little bit, gone down a little bit.
I think maybe I'm just used to seeing them, and I manage them differently. So it's kind of like they come out, you let them eat the area where they really want to eat, and then you put an insect netting on it.
Oh, okay.
You shake them all off and put the insect netting on,
Oh,
and then they have to move.
right.
You know how lazy they are. And they move, and then they get here, and then they eat a bit, and then after 3 weeks, when you're starting to feel you're losing,
Too much.
foliar, shake it, put a net on, and they move on. And they're usually at the extremities. They never really hit. In really bad years in the day, they were just everywhere. They were
It's like
falling on
a
you with
plague.
clothes.
Yeah.
So with that kind of management, and there was a year which is not like in 2018. I actually, got rid of all the graminées. What's a graminé? Monocotyledon. Graminées.
Grassy.
Yeah.
Like grassy.
And planted way more species. Like did it like a 9 species, just so that they wouldn't be in their sort of
Right.
nice place where they want to be. 'Cause
Right.
I think they like grasses better than.
Right.
And then since then, I've just let what wants to grow.
Can you? I forgot to ask. Can you sort of introduce yourself and where we are?
Yeah.
What the name of this place
Sure.
is, that kind of thing.
I'm Michael Marler, and we're at Vignoble Pervenches in Farnham, Quebec, and it's 4 hectares of vines. As we were talking about, it's 3/4 vinifera, 1/4 Céval as a hybrid.
So just the Sable is
Yeah.
the only thing you kept.
Yeah, that's the only thing I've kept.
Okay.
And so I own it with my wife, Veronique, and we've been doing it for 25 years.
Fantastic. Lovely. Sorry,
No,
we were talking more about bugs. Is this still more? What is this?
Chardonnay.
More Chardonnay.
Yeah.
Why are you telling people to stop here?
Because there used to be we used to have a store,
Uh-huh.
and then we didn't want to have a store anymore because we just wanted it to be grape growers.
Yeah.
But people were still coming, so we made a little audio
Oh.
and so that people would stop here
Oh.
and they get an explanation. But that hasn't no one's done that for years.
What did you say on that audio tour? What kind of stuff were you talking about?
It was I had a friend of mine sort of come in and talk with us. So he was just like a sommelier guy, and so he was asking us questions along the way about how we grow and how many people we are and about the organics and
Mm-hmm.
and so it was just basically that. I probably never ever listened to it from like A to Z, right?
Yeah.
I mean, probably just to make sure everything that was said was done right. But
Right.
I can't really remember all the details.
So for 25 years, you must have seen Quebec change a bit in terms of the wine culture here.
Oh yeah, completely.
What's been going on?
Well, Lots has been going on. It's an amazing thing what's happening in Quebec. I mean, just the quality of the people, the experimentation that's going on, and the non-experimentation. The people are actually doing, things great. There's the diversity of the production that we do, the diversity of grapes, the diversity of climate. It's all cold. So, but it is. There are nuances in that cold, and
Cold
the
with
wine
nuances.
styles. So everybody sort of gets a piece of land, and decides to plant whatever they decide to plant, and then have to figure out how are they going to make something in this climate that's going to work.
Yeah.
Without having to actually change people's taste habits too much.
Mm-hmm.
So there's been a lot of diversity in people making all sorts of different wine styles with different grapes and trying to adapt the whatever's made in the world, or even try new things to get those varieties to be fun and palatable and good, because I mean the limit here I find is always the acidity with regards to what you want to before your diaphragm goes and so yeah, I think it's great people. I don't know, because I don't live in another area, but we do talk a lot. A lot of us are all, we're always comparing notes all the time and phoning,
Nice,
and
yeah.
it's pretty cooperative. So that's fun too. A lot of young people, a lot of new energy coming in, so I see a lot of young people coming with all great ideas and doing things that I would never have imagined, and doing it in different ways and stuff. So yeah, it's great.
Have you gotten to mentor some people, especially in the vineyard? It seems like you've got a lot of experience and knowledge. Formal
quite
training.
a few people have come through. I think that some people, I don't want to say it because I hate saying, people.
Oh yeah.
But people tell me that a lot of people do come. I mean, that the vineyard's been known to be a place where people, at the beginning it was to come and see, this was the only sort of, well, not the only, but it was a functional block of vinifera,
Right.
sort of like back in the day.
Also grown organically, which is also probably
that
super
too,
rare.
and then there's there's growing vinifera. I think that was then growing organically, and then all the trials that we've done with animals and stuff and cover crops and all that. But just very unique in the way we do. We always come back to trying to just, I don't know. We do sort of 3 years of this and then 3 years of that and 3 years of this and 3 years of that. So I mean, there's a lot done, and we'll see what the next 3 years is.
What's the 3 years that you're in the middle of trialing now?
Right now is we had a horrible year in 2023 with frost, mildew, and we were at our peak of cover cropping everywhere and it just being complete. So when that happened, you kind of go in ups and downs, and I kind of burnt at the end of 2023, like more, just like, okay, like I love what I do, and I really do love what I do.
Morale was
morale was down. It's like, okay, it's like maybe I'm doing way too much together in this, and hoping that these steps were gonna actually, Nicole Masters, she says, like, you gotta earn, and so we've been doing all these steps, and like I said, well, maybe I got the only way I'm gonna know if I've earned it is to really back off on like using copper and intervention and that, and we paid for it like so bad. So I said, okay, look, the numbers were down in 23 and stuff. It wasn't. It was morally.
What did she mean when she said? So keep going.
What does Nicole mean?
Yeah,
you have to earn it. Is it
what
you have to? Like
in,
what she says, you gotta. What does she call it? 5 M's, right? So management, mindset, minerals, microbiology, and the other M is organic matter. So until you've mastered, obviously, I think mindset's first, and then management comes second, so you can actually get it done. But that's fine to be able to say, oh, I've read the book, or I've listened to the podcast, and I'm going to go out there. It's like, no, you got to make sure that your minerals are right, and you got to make sure you have the right microbiology, and you got to know that you have enough organic matter before you feel or actually it's probably telling you before you should even take the risk of going too far and thinking that your complete environment is resilient.
Right.
And with the years of biodynamics and the year of just bringing the compost and bringing ferments to the ground and doing all that, I was hoping that I had earned it. But maybe we had a bit it was a horrible season. It froze in the spring, so that might have had an effect on the physiology of the vines and everything. And then we had this really, 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 really dry May, June. I'm like, okay, no, this is the year. This is the year where I won't have to do anything. So he basically held off doing anything.
And then it rained the rest of the summer.
It rained from the 22nd of June until the 15th of August. Almost literally.
Right,
And so I was like, okay, fine. So with the frost, which is a volume issue, the mildew had a bit of volume implications, of course.
Right.
And just running after disease all year, and then bringing in a vineyard that froze. The volumes are down. Okay. I said, okay, well, 2024, I'm just going to be a good grape grower, like I know how to do. I'm just going to prune properly, do it properly, just keep the basics. Yeah. And then this season, as we've been talking about, much more like, okay, fine. I took my sort of season off. I'm not ready to go back to the wildness that we had before, because I saw the advantages just for our workers and everything, and the organization of the work and everything. I'm not saying, but I got to slowly go back into it. But this year's just measuring what we're doing a lot more. We're not starting with the bricks and the saps and everything. We started sap in 2023, and actually, it's really funny when you say the earn. It's like I saw my sap analysis on the 27th of May, 2023. And I probably could have known that I hadn't earned it yet. But I was a dreamer, or we were dreaming, And I also believe that the only way you know is to push the limits.
Right. By
pushing limits, at least you know what your limit is at this point.
Yeah, you get feedback.
And you come back.
Yeah.
And those limits were, all my friends had frozen, so they were like not taking any chances. And I was like, yeah, but it's been dry. This, I'm on the phone with the agronomes. Okay, what are the models talking about? The spore, germination in the soil. Okay, we've had this much heat. Has anybody seen anything? Most susceptible varieties in the area, are they getting hit? Next rain is when? What are the models saying? Then they announced 4 millimeters of rain on like the 15th of June. And so I said, I better just go cover a bit. So I put like 80 grams of copper or something, like for just to feel that I'd done anything, but without really going into like, actually I gotta, and then I paid for it.
Oof.
But now I know that limit, and I still feel that we do a pretty good job with the amounts we put on, and because we know the limit, and those is, and
so copper is pretty much the only thing that you can use for some of the biggest pressures
for
here.
downy.
And black rod, it helps a little bit.
Yeah, I don't see much black. I've seen black rot on the vineyard in 2 seasons, and basically it's been...
What do you do with it when you see it?
It's just that.
And you just pull it out?
Yeah, and then if you go look under there, you'll say, oh, there was a grape, we didn't prune it, a mummified grape. We take it out, and then we take as much leaf off as we can. And
do you drop it, or do you get it out?
No, take it out.
Okay, yeah.
No, basically when we're doing... we pull anything out that we see that, when we're in that type of mood, we're like, okay. Like we bag leaf hoppers.
Eliminate with extreme prejudice.
So yeah.
Huh. So, what do you? Because you're doing soil analysis too.
Yeah.
Do you see copper buildup with copper usage, or what?
Yeah,
are
there's
your copper
there,
levels okay?
Yeah.
Not terrible. Not toxic.
Crazy, but they're higher. I check them with what I had in when I started. They're higher.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, they're not off the charts, but they're high.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is that sometimes, like if you look at sap in the spring, copper deficient.
Huh.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Have you brought sheep in or anything?
I had sheep in back 20 years ago we used to have sheep.
Really?
It was really when we had the Frontenacs.
Yeah.
So we had high up lines.
Yeah.
We just bend them in. My father-in-law has sheep, so it's easy to get.
I hear they need copper, I think.
Oh yeah.
So that's what I've heard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've heard maybe that's a nice way to
say come leaf pull my things that I just made with copper.
Yeah.
Could be. Maybe they do. I mean, in our day and age, you can find a nice.
I mean, I'm sure there's a limit to what they need, but but I mean, if it's high in the soil, then I've heard of people having to put copper out for their sheep to remineralize the land because the soil is low in copper, so they're not getting it from the plants. Yeah. So they have to put it out.
Feed grade copper out there.
Right. Exactly.
For feed.
Right. Yeah. Right. So you wouldn't maybe have to do that. You have nice healthy sheep. Yeah. I'm just trying, and I wonder what that would do in terms of copper availability, because obviously, like if they're here and they poop it back out, like they need some of it, but maybe they're reducing the overall copper load in the soil, but maybe making vine available copper more present.
Exactly, yeah.
And
like
you
we
might
use
get your
cover crops
sap
to bring
breaks
your
up, yeah.
phosphorus around, yeah.
Your sap analysis, is what might improve from that.
For sure. I haven't gotten that.
I don't know. I'm totally speculating because I don't know enough about how cycling those nutrients through a sheep and soil with the interaction with the soil and the plant would do to that. But maybe I don't know. It's just a theory. Maybe something to.
No, gotta have a theory to.
Yeah, to test.
Gotta have the brain working.
Gotta be an ignoramus to learn something.
No, it's interesting.
Hey, 2 notes here. First, I didn't want to spread myths or unfounded ideas about copper and sheep. So here's a quote from a paper titled Copper Toxicity in Sheep by Mike Neary, a sheep specialist at Purdue University. Quote, sheep are unique among food and farm animals in the way they utilize copper. Copper is a required mineral for all farm animals and also is potentially toxic to all of the food-producing animals. Sheep are the most susceptible of all food-producing animals to copper toxicosis. Copper nutrition in sheep is quite complicated. It is a required mineral for sheep, yet highly toxic. Copper status of sheep is influenced by breed, age of animal, health status of animal, levels of other minerals consumed, and even levels of some feed additives in the diet. End quote. So the point here I just wanted to make so that I wasn't putting things out into the world carelessly is please use care when combining copper and sheep. Second, I got a message from Mike Biltonen of Know Your Roots in response to the mention of copper in another episode, and Mike suggested it's important to have a nuanced discussion about using it and not to demonize it. The poison is the dose, as he said. So there were a few points in this discussion that I'd love to learn more about. If anyone has any research that they could share with me, I'd love to explore explanations about why the copper levels in the soil at Les Pervenches is increasing, but the sap analysis shows the plants are low in copper. If anybody has any theories or papers that might suggest an explanation, I'd also love to know if there's any research being done on the cycling of copper, specifically through sheep or other ruminants, and if that makes the nutrients more bioavailable for the plants. Anyway, thanks.
I could go. My friend Simon has sheep. I can go check his roots levels.
Yeah, it'd be interesting because doing similar farming.
I'm just getting. I've been doing it for like 2 or 3 years now, and I'm trying to just mapping out what's going on here.
Yep.
And then I think that the next learning procedure is okay. Now you've seen what goes on and how it reacts around here, and how you get the fluctuations and stuff. Go and see what walk into a vineyard that like has no mildew or has less, or hybrids, different variety. See what I'd love to do that and try and correlate it maybe with some sap just to see if there are correlations.
Yeah.
Just because the brick is kind of like it's like if you have this and this, you could have this.
Yeah.
And if you have that and that and that, you could have that. And,
right.
So you're dealing with a lot of variables.
Yep.
That's why I had those test plots down there where I just what will bring up bricks, and
yeah.
These are Vignobles.
It's okay.
Yeah, but it's all pruned the same. Yeah. All the vinifers are pruned in Scott Henry.
Have you gotten any pressure to stop calling them Zweigelts?
Heard about it. Yeah.
nobody's come and
no
had a conversation with you.
No.
Yeah. Nice.
I mean, I get it.
Yeah. I get it too. Yeah. Just curious. More
flower or something.
It's like a Ropeburgunder. No, it's like or something. I forget. It's like Ropeburger or something.
So you guys are planted for the spacing.
Oh yeah. And these are
Chardonnay.
So it's a lot of Chardonnay.
Yep.
What do you do with it all?
It's only a hectare.
I mean, do you make different kinds of wine?
Yeah.
With the Chardonnay?
Yeah. Well, basically, no. Basically, we're just making Chardonnay.
Like a still Chardonnay?
Yeah. From time to time, we made we made 600 bottles of bubblies.
Okay. It's just a small amount, just a little.
Groundhog looking at it?
No, it looks like it. Real bold.
Yeah.
Hey. It's like maybe it's the decoy that they're over here doing something. Yeah. He's like distracting us. Oh, man. I heard something about, maybe you can tell me, Max. Didn't this guy, didn't you get an award recently?
I did.
What was that?
I don't want to say it.
What
I
did
don't
he
want to say
get?
it on a podcast.
What was his?
I think you should say it. I can say it if you prefer.
The
but-
best grape grower in Quebec.
Ah, look at that.
Yeah.
We're talking to the
Or
best grape-
vigneron, let's say. Maybe not
Okay.
grape, but just
So,
overall general.
wow, look at that guy.
Vigneron.
This guy's got a penthouse.
I know, under the...
Like
loves
under the
garbage.
propane. Nice. No wonder he's so big. Amazing. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Well, I
it's
mean,
good.
what a
It's
great
fun. It's fun.
honor. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. It makes you just, you go out in the morning and feel better about what you're doing. Oh, someone patted me on the back.
Right.
Yeah, no, we're happy.
Who was who?
Who's the judging panel?
It was a judging panel.
Yeah, it's...
So they tasted your wine, or they just overall?
Overall, it's people who work in the restaurant business all over the province, and
Okay.
there's public too. So anybody who's involved in restaurant, wine, food, farming, gastronomy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. What is it in French? What is the...
Le meilleur vigneron du Québec.
Beautiful. Neo. Okay. How come you were you steeped in organics biodynamics from the beginning?
No, when we bought it, we did 4 years of conventional.
So what made you change?
Um,
Why'd you go that direction?
Powdery mildew. 1 year, at the same in 04, at the same time, there was a government researcher. Research, yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
We came out saying that one of the fungicides that's been used a lot around here against powdery. Well, the powdery is completely resistant to it.
Okay.
And so I went to the guy who was selling me, the next available molecule to fix my problem, and I said, "This is crazy." I looked at the labels and the re-entry, intervals. I said, "This isn't where I want to be. It's not how I dreamt about it being." So I phoned up my friend Nico in France. He was organic, and I said, "How do you do it?"
Yeah.
I was like, well, for that, he's like, just use sulfur. I mean, it's gonna work, and it did. And I said, okay, cool. And at the same time, I was a friend of mine who's a sommelier in Montreal, who bought me Nicolas Joly's book in 2003. So I was reading that at the time, and then I had an employee who was totally into the ASC, Agriculture Soutenue par la Communauté, so all the baskets, and so it's where you
CSA?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. The farm CSAs. Yeah.
And he's like, you got to think of changing, So those things together, I just said, yeah, well, you're totally right. So that was it. I just made the decision.
Nice.
We're just like, no, let's do it, right?
Yeah.
And then I never went back. That's for sure.
Yeah.
No, couldn't believe it. I couldn't think of doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even though things that we still need to get better at what we're doing, I wouldn't go back.
Yeah. Amazing. What should I ask him? What am I not asking him?
I don't know. This is a great conversation.
I really like just talking viticulture with
Yeah?
you too. Yeah, it's nice to hear what you're experimenting with.
Yeah.
I've never seen a Scott Henley trellis system before, so that's cool.
Okay.
I've seen we were just talking about the Smart Dyson.
Yeah, which is it's
Single cord on,
Yeah.
up and down,
Yeah.
not a double cord.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
I like the airspace.
Yeah,
between.
that's
I actually
really
I used to have
clever.
it closer, and then I just where I had the higher trellis things, it just
You start
make
moving
it
that
bigger.
grow
yeah,
wire
yeah,
further apart,
and,
the cordon wire. Yeah.
and enjoyed every moment of changing there. Yeah.
How hard is it pulling them down? Like, do you get
It's not-
breakage, or do you just wait until they're stiff enough, they've hardened off enough?
So you basically, you haven't gone here yet, but basically you do this. Oh,
Okay.
you've done it.
So you come to one side,
You come
basically.
here and you just, you do this every once in a while.
Okay, you start. Yeah, it's like combing your hair.
Until
Eventually,
flower.
your hair
Yeah. See,
behaves itself.
That no, this yes, these no, they're going up, this yes. And then when this gets long enough, we just do this.
Okay.
And then...
What's that do?
Well, it's slowly, with the wind and everything, if everything is loose,
You
it
start
slowly
pushing
does
it
this.
out. Okay.
And then just after flowering, we'll go and hook it down there.
And just pulls everything down.
Yeah, and everything's ready. And then gravity has already done a lot of the work.
Right.
And yeah, if you go now with everything, a lot of guys slip out.
Right.
So you're just coming back and doing it. So
Yeah.
I just do it. I mean, it's really weird. Sometimes you're driving here and you have a meter chutes and you're coming through with a tractor, and so you're like lopsided because this row is like out to here and that's there. But I like to leave it a maximum. We were talking about the sort of the whole hormonal that the vines don't want to be in competition with anybody. So the more time I give these guys sort of untrellised space, I think they really just flower better. And until you start pushing them and packing them and pulling them and sticking them together. And
so here's a fun question for you. I mean, it sounds like you studied formally. You came at this from a initially conventional and probably really like agricultural sciences background. Mm-hmm. Did you have are you at this place where there's like an intuitive aspect to it, where there's like almost a spiritual aspect, like a relationship with the vines kind of thing? Like, how do you see them now? How has that evolved in your life, like in terms of?
It's interesting. I mean, of all the stuff that I've read about, wanted to do, tried to do, and love to do, there's lots of moments where you try and hope that there is an extra something where the relationship between the two could actually have an impact, you know. I could never walk out the door and say that I have a relationship. I could, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, right now, I don't know if anything's. I believe there's. Let's put it this way. I believe there's a lot more. And we all know this. I'm saying something that everybody knows, but there's just so much more out there that we don't know. And I keep that always in the forefront of when I get a piece of information, even with the background in school and everything. Mm-hmm. So I always try and take things with that. But so spiritual.
I mean, it's a weird word.
It's a weird word. It is.
It's hard for some people to process in a way that. Yeah. I know. I mean, that's kind of why I asked it.
Okay, let's go. Let's define spiritual, and then I'll answer the question.
So, yeah, that's a good question. I mean, to me, I wish I had like a ready definition, but what I'll say is, to me, it's like everything is spiritual. Like in the sense that this is all energy. Like everything is connected, and. Like we're more, air than we are solid, that kind of thing. And that's like all about moving particles and stuff like that. And and I'm not going to get like esoteric about that and start thinking about like energy fields and crystals and whatever. But it's hard to deny that like there are these, like when you act in the world, it's metaphoric, like what we say is just this thin line of metaphor across this ocean of meaning, and that's how I feel like our actions are in the world too. Like it's this thin line of, we take this step and it's like a tightrope across the abyss of meaning. And exactly, like your T-shirt,
like that,
like a meteor shooting through space, leaving.
Like,
So I guess that's when I think of spiritual, it's not related to God or a religious understanding. It's just related to the fact that like our understanding is so finite, and we're just these expressions that are these brief expressions of life, in all its diversity, whether we're plant, human, groundhog, or plantain, and in so many ways we're just we're very similar to each other, and so it's like there's this deeper element to which we're all connected, the life force.
Well, let's go back to the answer to the question. Then I totally agree, and I do feel that I am a living person within a system, and so I try and understand what my actions are on the system, and I try and understand what the actions of things going around me on the system. I try to be very open to that. Totally believe what you said, that the importance sometimes, that's not what you said, but I took it into ways, the importance that we take into life is just this minute thing that's going on, and so sometimes it's sort of like take it easy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's not. I don't think that I've got to the point where I still have to rely on what is human, and by discussing with other humans, and and reading what other humans have said, to be able to. I feel right now to try and help this plant that we've stuck in the ground and planted in a line, and done all that. I still, we made that
right.
That's decision,
yeah.
which I think is, we're trying to solve problems sometimes that maybe are not solvable because of that.
Right, because we created a system.
That created it, and every
it's
time
embedded
we're
in the
here,
system. Yeah.
I mean, it's really hard to. There are lots of actions that we're doing that we think are great, but we're still humans in a natural environment, and most of what we do is, in my opinion, destructive.
Yeah.
So I try and keep that in mind when I'm doing it. It's like, okay, remember, you think you're doing something great for them, but you're still a human,
right?
Doing things to them, and
right.
So maybe that's spirituality. I definitely try and understand my impact.
Yeah. What hot takes do you have on the wine industry right now? What are you sick of? What do you have a really strong opinion about? Like, what do you like?
God. Definitions.
Definitions?
Yeah.
In what's it? Like natural wine.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Do you make natural wine?
I make wine without any additives.
Okay. Yeah.
If you want to call it natural, you can call it natural. I don't walk out and say I make natural wine.
Right.
People go out, say they make natural wine, and they're doing something different than what I'm doing. And it's not right or wrong. It's just different. So,
do you think we should
regenerative agriculture? It's a tough one too. It's it's amazing the people out there doing these, the amount of information out there, and we're seeing things like that. Your instinct would tell you that it was true, but now a lot of people are just saying, yes, that's it. That's the way it is. We have stuff. We've tried it. We have information. And you're getting all this information. It's great, but then people are actually
just co-opting
bickering between, well, what's the definition of what you're doing, this means this, so let's define this so that this is regenerative agriculture and this is organic and this is biodynamic. I see a lot of people just actually trying to go the same way at different speeds, with different techniques, with different educations, with different financials, with different points of view, with different goals,
different experiences, different personal
speeds, and I just find that a lot of it, when I see that people are actually trying to define themselves within a bunch of people who are actually doing a whole bunch of good things, and that everybody should be actually be together doing it. That's what I mean. Definitions is just like, you just hear this. You hear a lot of people who are doing so many great things, and probably me myself included, and you start saying, well, I do it this way, and this is and you kind of like, oh God, it's just why aren't we just cohesive as opposed to dividing everything up? The dividing up is tough, and I can understand someone who is like absolutely brilliant and so far ahead of the rest and knows it. Well, yeah, maybe they should be able to say, hey, God, I am so much further. But for the rest of us who are just, looking around, trying, we got our constraints, we've got this, we've got our goals, we've got, and that, and we do, and it's just to be able to meet as many people that you can, so you can learn enough about, the angle you're taking to it.
Yeah.
And and the way people are doing at a different speed, and it could be miles ahead of what I feel I'm doing, and that's great because it's an inspiration. And then there are other people who come by and they're just starting, and you can give them something, and that's great too. And definitions drive me crazy.
Yeah. So
division and stuff. Yeah. So people ask me, do I make natural wine? No, I make wine without anything in it. Maybe one day I will. I used to. Yeah. Right now I'm not. That's what you want.
Right.
You can have it, and I'd be pleased to do it. And if I do that, and this is what I do, and that's how I do it in the field, that's what you'd like, then that's what you get. But I'm, got my own things going and trying to listen and move ahead. And I don't know.
Nice
definitions.
Nice.
What's you?
Hot take? I have too many, man. I do this for I wouldn't say I do this for a living, but I think about it a lot. I don't know. The thing that you were saying that I resonated with was just something I've been thinking about is just like it's hard for me to talk like about wine because my vision for it is so different from most people who have, you know, like what people hear when they hear the term wine is not like what I have in my mind.
Okay.
And it's like the thing that I'd like people to understand is like it's impossible because it's anti-human nature, which is like to be able to think about process, like to be able to embrace dynamism, you know, to embrace change in your daily life, because we can't, like, we need, like, that's why we go for definitions, that's why we go for these things, because we want certainty, we want, you know, we want surety, we want to, like, you know, we need to cling to something because the unknown is scary, but like life is the unknown, you know, like we're in the realm of the unknown. We just we make these words up to pretend like we're not, you know, and I'm like, let's stop pretending, and that's really hard to get people to do because it's so terrifying. You know? And
it is, because, well, of course it is. I mean, you do that, you know, you can do it obviously you can do it on a small level every day. Just, you know, practice all the time. Just put yourself in these zones when you're like uncomfortable, and always try and push yourself to be, you know, try something you've never done or stuff like that. But then on a big level, you know, if we're talking about sort of global agriculture, I mean, you know, like for example, it's, you know, what sounds what you're doing, you know, and I don't know, but I think just from what I know, you know, is going to be with your polyculture and a forest and everything, you're obviously going to have like an ecosystem that is a lot healthier than this one, right? But this is what I do. Right. And so it's like, okay, if I wanted to go into the unknown, you're just breaking everything, you know, your education, your financial situation, everything. You just like, you put that in front of you and you're like, oh, boy, that's a big step to take. I'll keep putting myself in the unknown on a daily basis. Let me read a book in another language and see if it's fun. You know? Right. And if I, you know, do something like, I don't know, making things up, but you know, but there is that fear of that. You know, you're just working, and you built, and you've been doing it and sort of just going at it, and then when you realize, you know, that, hey, well, first there's a million other ways to do it, and there's a whole other things. It can be scary to think that, you know, that to move forward, to move forward at a big pace, a lot of change needs to be made. Let's just say if it's with everything we're doing, and that's scary. For sure.
I think about that. I mean, because for me, it's like a lot of what I'm trying to do is get people to be a little more open to hybrids. You know, not that like you can't have your preferences or whatever, but it's like right now we're in a place where, you know, hybrids aren't, you know, they're just not even seen in the same realm. It's like a different league. It's like the junior league, basically, versus like, hey, the reality is like life is about constant adaptation. The only reason we even have to talk about hybrids is because Europeans grew up with one species of grape. You know, like if they had grown up with multiple species, all we'd be talking about is hybrids, because they would have already been crossed hundreds of years ago. And that's what all of our varieties that we think of as the noble varieties would be now. You know, they just accident of evolution that they were there. You know, and accident of evolution that like the Haut-Noussani or the Abenaki didn't like wine because they had multiple grapes to work with, but they didn't like wine. So when the Europeans came here, they didn't find like a whole wine culture, you know, full of like tons of hybrids. They just like, you know, so it's like these accidents, and then we now think that like vinifera is this shit.
But the Abenaki would have been growing Riparia, and they're like, oh, your vinifera is horrible.
Exactly.
We're keeping with our Riparia.
Exactly.
We don't want any of your like Gouais Blanc crossing until it became this and that and that. No, those aren't noble.
Exactly, yeah. Totally.
My river Riparia is...
So, I don't know, you know, it's fun stuff like that, where it's just like, you know, I think, like, the idea of understanding wine is not this attempt to find the best possible, like we like to seek for the optimal thing, but to just realize like we're always going to be changing. Like this is going to be good. It's going to work for you. It's not going to work for me. It's not going to be my preference. It's going to be your preference, but that's okay. We're going to have a diversity of things, and in the next generation, they're going to have new grapes because we're breeding. We're not deciding that Cabernet is the best grape or Chardonnay is the best grape for all time for everybody. Like, it's not the highest and best grape for the whole world for all time. And we're going to like do what we've done, which is
Yeah.
plant it everywhere on every continent
Yeah.
around the globe and have a giant global monoculture. Instead, we're going to let things adapt and
Yeah.
change, and as things change, as the rest of the world changes, we're going to change with it. I don't know. So that's my
No, it's great.
hot take
Nice.
soapbox thing. But yeah, no, it's. I mean, but I also like you know
Want
like.
taste some Chardonnay?
I would love to. I didn't want to ask, but thanks for offering.
I didn't know if you wanted to. No,
Yeah,
just kidding.
I would really love to taste your.
It's only our birthday.
I would love to taste your natural Chardonnay. I'm just kidding. No, this is awesome. I have the same thing about natural. I was like, I just don't even like to use the word. I don't like low intervention. It's also as a winemaker, you know how much unnatural stuff you do to make it possible, or whatever natural
Yeah.
means. However you do, what is natural
I
anyway?
listened to your podcast on the natural wine.
Oh, about natural wine
Secret,
is.
the one you did in your car.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, the other night I was driving home from Montreal.
Yeah,
Put that
that's-
one on. Yeah. It's good. It's a good beginning.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Helping people figure out what to do.
Yeah,
For
just
sure.
like,
I mean,
just
he was right on. I mean, yeah. Pete Q, post thanks.
yeah, just if only I pronounced it correctly. Thanks again for listening. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. I want to thank all of you who support this podcast through donations, Patreon subscriptions, sponsorships, or just posting a great review and telling a friend. You make this podcast possible, and I'm honored and humbled and inspired by your support. If you'd like to support this podcast, you'll find links to all the ways you can support it in the show notes.